this life is only an experience. This is not a forever life. And so there is nothing good or bad that could happen in it.
I'm sitting in the back of the car, seeing the neighborhoods change. From the polished, from the famous, from the glamorous parts of the city to the post-apocalyptic ones. Passing by the shopping streets and the tents in the streets, seeing cars that are so big, I've never seen them before, and then some that are nearly completely rotten. Feeling a change in the atmosphere as we leave the famous parts of the city to the infamous and rough ones. My perception is changing. I observe every detail. How is it to have your studio here as an artist, to thrive in creativity amongst the social conflicts and the violence and the oppression? How will it be to actually be in Compton? To meet someone who has a hell of a story to tell.
The Transformative Power of Art. Interview with Mr. Wash. Discover the extraordinary life and artistic journey of Fulton Leroy Washington, aka Mr. Wash, a renowned self-taught artist. For this interview, Lotte Haus and me, Mark Süß, visited him in his Compton-based studio where every artwork tells a story of resilience and creative freedom. Born in 1954 in Tallulah, Louisiana, Fulton Leroy Washington faced a life sentence in the late 1990s for a nonviolent drug offense, a product of the war on drugs era with its devastating effects on society. After 21 years behind bars, President Barack Obama granted him clemency in May 2016. In prison, Washington found solace in art. His subjects, fellow inmates, depicted in photorealistic portraits set in serene landscapes, evoking a sense of freedom. Some canvases reveal deeper psychological layers, with one of his leitmotifs, the symbolic tears that reflect all the things the portrayed inmates missed or even lost. One notable piece, Emancipation Proclamation, mirrored President Lincoln's historic proclamation, portraying Obama granting Washington clemency, a work Mr. Wash believes played a pivotal role in his release. In our conversation, Mr. Wash talks about discovering his passion for painting behind bars. Through sheer determination and a relentless pursuit of self-expression, he found freedom in art. Hear firsthand as he recounts his journey from self-taught artist and a beacon of hope within the prison walls to becoming an LA art legend. Today, Mr. Wash's art transcends boundaries, serving as a powerful medium of social change and community empowerment. We are honored that we had the opportunity to collaborate with Mr. Wash as we contributed a mural in the compound where he plans to build a community center. This interview is filled with raw emotion, inspiration, and the unwavering spirit of Mr. Wash, showing the transformative power of art.
The Transmute Tapes, a Maison Douce podcast. The Transmute Tapes, Maison Douce.
I want to learn about the moment that you decided to become an artist.
The first thought for painting, it actually happened in the United States Penitentiary Leavenworth. I used to look, it was a restricted area that everybody can't go into, right? So you have to look through the window. And one day I was up there and I looked through the window and I saw people painting. And I was like, wow, you know, I want to do that, but you have a big sign on the door that's, unauthorized access or whatever it said. So you couldn't go in. But I would go and look and always look. And like we go up there, they have all the pool tables around and everybody's shooting pool and playing Karens. And I'm looking through the window. But one officer saw me always looking and invited me in for a look around. And I went in and looked and was able to look over the shoulders of people like Leonard Peltier. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was been in prison for probably 50 years or so. They accused him in the 70s of killing an FBI agent. So he was there. I didn't know who he was at the time from just looking at him, but my grandmother, being an Indian, had already told me about him. And so when I finally did get in there and I learned that that's who he was, I was able to tell him about everything that my parents and grandparents had said about him. But that's how it all first started. I looked through the window, saw people painting. I was fascinated with the how they was applying color. Then I heard that it was oils when they gave me the little interview to walk through and take a look around. And then I put in my application to get a seat, which took another like 8 or 9 months before I was able. Somebody had to leave for somebody to come. So a guy left, and then I was able to take that seat. And then I painted my very first oil painting, which is called Why Us? It was a picture of, they had a movie that came out, I think it came out in like 1996 called Armistead. It was about the slave trade and people being tied, in the ships coming across. And they had a picture in the newspaper, a black and white picture about maybe 2 by 3, like a business card size. And for some reason, an inmate brung it to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Wash, you need to look at this." And I looked at it and like, what is this? It's a movie. It's Armistead. It's about slaves like Roots and this and that. And I'm like, oh, wow. I took the picture, put it in my wallet, kept it for probably close to a year. And then the opportunity came. I didn't know what to paint. I finally have a seat in here. What am I going to paint? I pulled that out and tried. Nothing like what I do now. It's nothing like that. It was my first attempt with oils. And it was called Why Us, and had dead people tied to the floor in chains. Yeah.
Wow, that's an impressive first picture.
Yeah, well, we had the first and the last. The Obama picture, Emancipation Proclamation, is the last. So it's really ironic that the very first picture I painted was about slaves, and the last one that I painted was also about slaves. Now, let's take a look at everything in between.
It's important to tell people this is your last painting you did while still incarcerated. Coming out of prison, you continued to paint.
So what really happens, I think the incarceration influences the type of art that I create. I think that I can pretty much do anything that comes into a person's mind or that comes into my mind. I'm a storyteller with a brush. I hear the story, my mind forms visions. I translate that into a sketch. Really rough. I don't need a lot of information because the final details and the outcome, it comes with the brush. And I pick the brush up and I start to vibe with the painting, with the canvas, and the story unfolds itself.
A lot of your artworks use the same leitmotif, the tears with reflection of people and things in them. Can you tell me more about them?
I have to thank Tim McGraw, the country singer, because he made a song that said, "I don't know why they say grown men don't cry." During my incarceration for probably, I think, about almost 18 years of the 21 years, I did not listen to the radio. So I didn't know anything about music. Now, music was always around me because everybody had headphones and speakers and you would hear, but I personally did not own a radio and I personally never selected anything to listen to. So one day while painting, Cal Triber, which was another artist inside of the room where we worked, he had his headphones off laying on the counter and he had the amplifiers, all that. And so he's filling the room with music and I'm painting. And then all of a sudden the song comes on, Tim McGraw. I don't know why they say grown men don't cry. And just the statement of the song, the first lyrics caught me. And as I listened to the story being told, I went into tears. Yeah. And I couldn't let nobody in prison see me cry. It's not a place to be anywhere weak, so no tears could fall, no sounds, and I had to muffle myself and hide behind my canvas until I regathered myself. But once I did, I decided to draw a sketch of everything I felt, and it was a picture of me with tears in my eyes, and inside of my tears was me losing my wife and my family and everything that existed. And so I kind of drew it out. And then the next week, I took a picture of myself in the position that I saw myself in a prison tower looking out. And then I painted it. Yeah. That was the very first one. When people saw it, yep. The inmates, the staff, the warden, everybody saw it. They could never imagine a tear to ever fall from my eye. And everybody began to humble themselves and to open up with the things that bothered them. Because it took a while to paint. It ain't like it just popped out one day. I'm sitting there working on it, and I'm working on it, and I'm working on it. And then the tears come after I painted the picture. Then the tears start to come in, and they're like, what? Then inside the tears start to come. And they're like, damn, man, I didn't know you was going through stuff like that. Yeah, man, we all going through it, So then they start to tell their stories. And as they told their stories, it's like, man, could you do me one? Could you do me one? Could you put my dog in? Could you put my mom in? Could you put my car in? And so they just kind of evolved into where people were coming to the prison from other prisons, looking for me to create and tell their story.
Your art and your craft developed in this tough environment in prison. How did your relation to creativity and art change after you got out?
Now I'm like I would say more like an infant or a baby, or going from one grade in school to another grade, because we have a lot of restrictions for the type of materials and products that we could use in prison, which we have access to more. So I'm constantly seeing, like, every month or every 2 or 3 months, I'm getting something new that I never used before. Give you an example. So I don't know if you ever heard of Sag Harbor. Sag Harbor is like in the Hamptons in New York, in the islands and around Martha's Vineyard and all that. They invited me to come and to spend a week to a month with them painting. But they put a restriction. You cannot bring anything flammable, no linseed oil. So I can't paint in oils. So that's kind of like being in prison, in a sense that you're restricted to come up with and express yourself, to communicate through art with these chains on. Yep. A lot of people have been asking for oil paintings, so I've been painting oil paintings. But now I'm getting a request to come and paint, but you can't have anything flammable, so you can't paint in oil because you can't have linseed oil and this and that and that. Challenging. I like it. Yeah. I like the challenge. Yeah.
So for all people listening to this, where can we get updates, more information? Where can we see your artworks?
For everybody that's in what they call it, this new thing they got, they call it social media. Yeah, right. So they didn't have that when I got arrested. Yeah. So I come home to this thing called social media, right? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think the grandkids gave me all of the accounts. I only learned how to use one. So I have an Instagram account. It's up under Mr. Wash the Artist. So it's MRWASH, the artist. There you can see little current events that come up. But you also can go to artbywash.com, which is a full website, and it's still under development now, that hosts not just the art that's current or the work that's in progress, but also the merchandise that comes from that art. And you can purchase merchandise like T-shirts, hoodies, sweat outfits, coffee mugs, hats, and they have a whole list of things that we're going to be adding there, including magazines that feature the artwork. We have a book coming out. The documentaries. It's multiple documentaries on through the Google platform that they will also be hosted on our websites. And so for those that like to do research, you can just type in Mr. Wash the Artist right into Google, and you'll come up with documentaries, news articles, and don't believe the hype, because I was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to life. And so the government story is there. So use your own intelligence and you figure out if you like to play the puzzle game, who's telling the truth. You know I'm not 5'4", so that's the bottom line. artbywash.com, helpushelpwash.org, Mr. Wash the Artist on Instagram.
What's your biggest inspiration for art today?
Stories from life. Yeah. Stories from life. It's like, I think we was going over earlier, on August the 4th, 2023 will be the 1-year anniversary of the Slauson 6. A car ran through a red light at over 100 miles an hour, hit several cars into an explosion. 18-month-old baby ejected, pregnant mother ejected, several other people ejected, 2 people burned up in the car. And so, that type of real life moment story reaches me, and it compels me to stop sometime what I'm doing to capture that moment in time. Because as a storyteller with a brush and as a fine art artist, I think that the same way that we view Picasso's and Rembrandt's of what was going on with the fox hunt, with the dog and the rabbit and the new horse, that's the Persian horse or whatever, that was important at that time. I think that people matter and things don't. So when I hear the story about people, and if it reaches me spiritually, then I'm compelled to try to capture that moment in history so that the world will never forget.
Is there a spiritual component to your art? Do you feel comfortable talking more about it?
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I'm always comfortable because this life is only an experience. This is not a forever life. And so there is nothing good or bad that can happen in it. It's just an experience. It's just how do you deal with the moment by moment to whether or not, if this is a test, that you pass the test and you can move on or fail and have to repeat the same classes again. So I understand that this is a temporary life. It's not a forever thing. I know that a lot of people want to make things and last forever and hope that relationships last forever and hope that their children live forever. Listen, that's not really part of what the experience is really all about. The experience is about doing the right thing at the right time. And that as long as your energy is out to help and serve someone else, it'll be reciprocated back to you in multiple fold. You can believe that. Life is an experience. I feel I'm comfortable. And I've been having a great experience. I mean, even incarceration, 21 years in prison, to me was only a single experience. And I think it kind of disturbed a lot of people, like you saw in the documentary, the We Transfer Presents Mr. Wash documentary, that like I did not know that Skull was going to come with that type of an answer because I didn't know how people looked at me on the yard. I didn't know that they thought that I was losing it, as he say. Because I'm always like kept my bags packed for 21 years. I'm going home. So they thinking I'm crazy. But I see the future that developed in front of my eyes, and I lived it. And I showed them as a living example of how not to let these things, even the deaths that occur around you, the mental abuse, from the staff and from other inmates, it's only an experience. How do you deal with it? You watch me deal with it because an atrocity that could have came to someone came to me. And I dealt with it. And I continue to move forward. And that's what we have to do all the way through life. So I think that, yes, all of the art that I do has a spiritual connection because I can't paint it without feeling it, because then you won't feel the painting. And I think most of all of my work have some type of emotional impact because I actually feel it. I'm living whatever it is that I'm painting for that moment in time. I try to give it 100% with every painting.
That's a huge inspiration. Do you want to share some of the plans you have for the compound your studio is on?
Well, I've been out of prison now, getting close to like 5 years. I think September the 2nd will be the 5-year trigger mark we were speaking about early. And I had a plan. I had a plan, called 357. So I'm entering to the 5th. My desire and my efforts are to create a community center that will allow both the youth that's growing up to become adults to have a way of expression and communication using art. And they'll be able to do that here at this location, 915 West Rosecrans in the city of Compton, the Art by Wash Studio and Community Center. But also it doubles as a reentry program, part of the element, the Help Us Help Wash, 501c3, helpushelpwash.org. It works as creating this bridge that allows people who has went through the similar incarceration like myself, as well as people in the community who has dedicated their lives to art, whether it be painting, music, crocheting, leather products, dance, or whatever. We'll try to facilitate programs to help everybody advance in their way of communicating their artistic gifts that God gave them.
Discover more inspiring talks, audio documentaries, or art performances. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform and visit our website for more information. That's maison-douce.com. maison-douce.com.